Alrighty, you guys. So today I'm going to be talking about el imperfecto versus el pretérito and when to use them. So just to get your mind started as to when we use el imperfecto versus el pretérito, I'm going to be asking you two questions. So the first question is, ¿Dónde viajabas de niño? Which would be, where would you travel as a vacation while you were a child? Would you use el imperfecto here, or would you use el pretérito here? As for the second question, that would be, ¿Cómo estuvo tu clase de yoga ayer? Which is, how was your yoga class yesterday? Would you use el imperfecto or would you use el pretérito? Now, even though these are two past tenses for us to use in Spanish, they are used in very different ways. So, el imperfecto, which translates into the imperfect past tense, is used for undefined past actions. It might be continuous, and there's no clear beginning or end. This past tense is usually descriptive, and it's also used for habitual actions. Now, in English, this is the equivalent of using would or used to. So if I asked you, what was your favorite thing to do as a kid? You might say, I would read books, or I used to go to the park with my friends. Now, el pretérito, which is the simple past tense, is a defined past action, which has a beginning and an end. And it's typically more of a narration of the past. And the equivalent of this in English is the ed ending at the end of words. So if I ask you, what did you do yesterday? You might tell me, oh, I just watched TV. If I ask you, what did you do this weekend? You might say, oh, I walked my dog. Now, those key words, this weekend and yesterday, is what makes this action defined. You are creating a beginning and an end. We know that the action happened within a specific time frame. Now, for the imperfect past tense, that's what makes it undefined, that we don't have a clear beginning or end. Now, if I asked you about your childhood and I said, oh, in the summer of 1987, from June to July, what would you do? You might say, I read a couple of books, which would then be a defined past action. But because of the undefined nature of the imperfect past tense, the conjugation has to change. So here we're going to go into a verb chart for el imperfecto. Now, I included verbs that end in AR, ER, and IR. And estos se pueden utilizar para cualquier verbo regular, which means that you can use them for any regular verb. Obviously, when a verb becomes irregular, it's a bit of a different conjugation. Now, I want you guys to pay special attention to the differences in conjugation, las diferencias en la conjugación. For some of them, it's similar. You guys can see that correr and evadir, even though they have ER and IR endings in nosotros. And in all of the verbs, actually, they have the same ending. The E turns into an I in correr. Now, I want us to practice this all together. Yo cocinaba. Tú cocinabas. Él o ella cocinaba. Nosotros cocinábamos. Usted cocinaba. Ellos o ellas cocinaban. Now you'll notice here that when you are conjugating an AR verb in the imperfect past tense, you have to add a be. And that is what tells everybody that you are conjugating it in the imperfect past tense. Now for correr and evadir, even though they have two different endings, they're conjugated the same. And you can use these last stems for any ER or IR verb that will be conjugated in the imperfect past tense. So correr turned into yo corría, tú corrías, él o ella corría, nosotros corríamos, usted corría, ellos o ellas corrían. Now we're looking at preguntas del pasado. So if I'm asking you guys something that's habitual or that you used to do as a kid that you might still like to do now, there are some key words. So notice how all of them have de niño, de joven, at the end, because it's showing that it's something that you used to do and you might still continue to do it. So the first question is asking, ¿Qué era tu comida favorita para cocinar de niño? What was your favorite food to cook as a kid? I put, yo cocinaba quesadillas y mac and cheese. I would cook quesadillas and mac and cheese. ¿Te gustaba correr de niño, de joven? Did you like to run as a kid? Yo corría en mi clase de educación física, pero no me gustaba. Gustaba is also in the imperfect past tense. And this says, I would run in my PE class, but I didn't like it. The last question is, ¿qué es algo que evadías de más joven? What is something that you would avoid when you were younger? I answered, cuando estaba sacando mi licenciatura, evadía mucho ir a las horas de oficina de mis profesores. When I was getting my bachelor's, I would avoid going to my professor's office hours. Now here we're going to look at el pretérito. I'm not going to make you guys say this because it's very basic pronunciation, but the most important thing to notice here is that tildes, the accent on top of vowels, is what really marks this as past tense. So yo cociné, tú cocinaste, él o ella cocinó, nosotros cocinamos, usted cocinó, ellos o ellas cocinaron, yo corrí, tú corriste, él o ella corrió, nosotros corrimos, usted corrió, ellos o ellas corrieron, and so on and so forth. The tilde is what makes it past tense. So some questions for this section are, ¿qué cocinaste la última semana? Yo cociné tacos al pastor. What did you cook last week? I cooked tacos al pastor. ¿Te gusta correr? Do you like to run? Corrí un maratón el último verano. I ran a marathon last summer. And again, look at how the tilde, the accent, is what makes it past tense. Now, for some last questions, just to make sure that you guys got it, here are some questions. Now, what tense should we use here? Responde utilizando el imperfecto o pretérito. Respond using the imperfect or past tense. So the first question is, ¿dónde viajaban de niños? ¿Qué cocinaste ayer? ¿Qué te gustaba hacer de niño? So go ahead and pause it and answer when you guys are ready. And I'm going to reveal the questions and their answers now. First one should have been imperfecto. Second one should have been pretérito. And the third one should have been imperfecto. And that's all I have for you guys today. So thank you guys for watching, and I am going to stop my recording.